In 1929, in the deserts of New Mexico, a lone teenager walked across the cracked surface of an ancient lakebed known as Blackwater Draw. His name was Ridgely Whiteman. He was only 19. The wind scraped across the dust, the sun burned overhead, and nothing around him suggested history was waiting beneath his boots. But under that dry earth lay a discovery that would rewrite the story of an entire continent. He noticed enormous bones, dark and ancient, not cattle, not bison. These were the ribs and vertebrae of a mammoth, a creature that had disappeared thousands of years before. But the bones were only part of the story. Between the ribs, lodged deep, was something far more important, a stone spear point, perfectly shaped, razor sharp, and carved with a distinctive groove down its center. That mammoth hadn't simply died, it had been hunted. That single moment introduced the world to the people we now call the Clovis. For decades, they were believed to be the first humans to set foot in North America. They seemed to appear suddenly in the archaeological record, like ghosts stepping out of the Ice Age. But today, with modern DNA sequencing, new excavations, and advanced dating methods, we understand far more than we once did. In this Helix Origins episode, we're not speculating, we're reconstructing, step by step. Who were these people? What did they look like? What did they eat? How did they cross a frozen world that stopped most life in its tracks? And why, after spreading across an entire continent, did their cultures suddenly change? To answer that, we don't begin in America. We begin in Siberia. At a site near Lake Baikal called Malta, the genetic story of the Clovis ancestors begins nearly 24,000 years ago. There, mammoth hunters survived brutal Ice Age winters. Geneticists refer to them as the ancient North Eurasians. Their DNA would later become a foundational part of the genetic makeup of the first Americans. After mixing with East Asian populations, their descendants began moving eastward toward lands no human had ever entered. For years, scientists could only guess what the Clovis people looked like: skulls, fragments, theories. Then, in 2014, on private land in Montana, construction workers uncovered something extraordinary: a burial site 12,600 years old. Inside lay the remains of a toddler, about 18 months old, carefully placed in the earth and covered in red ochre. This child, now known as Anzic-1, is the only Clovis individual whose full genome has been sequenced, and he changed everything. His DNA revealed dark hair, brown eyes, and a medium to dark skin tone. He was not European, as older theories once claimed. He was directly descended from ancient Siberian and East Asian populations. Even more striking, he was closely related to nearly all indigenous peoples across North and South America today. The Clovis were not random wanderers, they were ancestors. They were built for endurance, lean, strong, adapted to a world of ice and movement. The average Clovis man stood around 5 foot 7 inches tall, muscular and conditioned by constant travel and demanding hunts. They lived on the edge of survival and on the edge of discovery. But how did they reach the Americas in the first place? Around 20,000 years ago, Earth looked nothing like it does today. Massive glaciers locked up huge amounts of the planet's water. Sea levels were roughly 400 feet lower. Where the Bering Strait now separates Russia and Alaska, there was land, a vast region called Beringia. This wasn't a narrow bridge, it was a massive subcontinent nearly 1,000 miles wide, a cold grassland where mammoths, bison, and other megafauna roamed freely. The ancestors of the Clovis followed those herds. For thousands of years, they lived in Beringia, isolated from the rest of humanity. But moving south wasn't easy. Two enormous ice sheets, the Cordilleran and the Laurentide, blocked the way, forming a frozen wall nearly 2 miles high. Then, around 15,000 years ago, the climate shifted. The ice began to retreat. A narrow passage opened along the eastern edge of the Rocky Mountains, what scientists call the ice-free corridor. For decades, researchers believed the Clovis were the first to pass through it, but newer evidence suggests the story is more complicated. For a long time, that corridor may have been
lifeless mud. Some earlier groups likely traveled along the Pacific coastline by boat. Still, once the corridor became habitable, the Clovis moved through it rapidly. By 13,000 years ago, they had reached the Great Plains, and what they found was a hunter's dream, a continent filled with massive animals that had never encountered human predators. To survive and dominate, they needed something extraordinary. That something was the Clovis point. In archaeology, it's rare for an entire culture to be identified by a single tool, but this is one of those rare cases. The Clovis point wasn't just sharpened stone, it was precision engineering. At the Gault Site in Texas, archaeologists uncovered what appears to have been a large-scale production site, a workshop where these points were crafted in huge numbers. The key innovation was fluting, a risky technique where a long, thin flake was removed from the base of the spear point. One mistake and hours of work would shatter, but the reward was worth it. That groove allowed the spear to be secured tightly into a wooden shaft using sinew and resin, creating a strong aerodynamic weapon. When launched with an atlatl, a spear thrower, these projectiles could reach speeds over 60 miles per hour. They weren't guessing where to strike. They targeted lungs, abdomen, vital organs. At sites like Naco, Arizona, archaeologists discovered mammoth remains pierced by multiple Clovis points, evidence of coordinated hunting strategy. 8 spear points embedded in a single skeleton. Strategy, teamwork, precision. In northern Mexico, at El Fin del Mundo, Clovis hunters even brought down gomphotheres, elephant-like creatures with 4 tusks, once believed to have gone extinct before humans arrived. The timing is impossible to ignore. As Clovis spread, many large Ice Age animals vanished. Climate change played a role, but human hunting pressure was decisive. Then, suddenly, around 13,000 years ago, Clovis technology disappears from the archaeological record. The beautifully fluted points stop appearing. Did the people vanish? No. Around that same time, Earth entered a dramatic cooling period known as the Younger Dryas. Temperatures dropped, glaciers advanced, ecosystems shifted, mammoths and mastodons declined rapidly. The era of megafauna was ending. Heavy spear technology was no longer ideal for hunting smaller, faster animals like bison, so the people adapted. The Clovis tradition evolved into what archaeologists called the Folsom culture, featuring lighter, more efficient spear points. The people remained, the tools changed, and recent discoveries in White Sands National Park suggest that even before Clovis, humans had already reached the Americas, leaving footprints dating back 23,000 years. Still, the Clovis were the first culture to spread nearly the entire continent. Their genetic legacy survives in indigenous communities from Alaska to Tierra del Fuego. They were not myths, not shadows. They were real people who crossed a frozen world, engineered revolutionary weapons, hunted giants, adapted to climate catastrophe, and laid the foundation for the human story of the Americas. And every time a fluted spear point is lifted from the soil, we are reminded of one thing: history is not static, it is buried, waiting.